When you wake up in the morning, you're not stepping into a day that is empty or unprepared. Long before your eyelids lifted, long before your thoughts returned to the worries of yesterday or the plans of today, God was already working things out for you. You awaken into a day that heaven has already touched. While you were sleeping, God was arranging, aligning, and preparing blessings that your eyes have not yet seen. Nothing about this morning is ordinary, because nothing about God's provision is accidental. The breath in your lungs is evidence that He has purpose for you today. The quiet peace that greeted you before your mind got loud with concerns is proof that He watches over you even when you're unaware. God prepares what you need before you even know you need it. There are solutions already waiting for problems that haven't shown up yet. There are open doors prepared for challenges you didn't see coming. There is strength set aside for weaknesses that may try to rise later in the day. You are not walking into a random morning. You are walking into a day designed by the one who knows your steps, your struggles, and your future. Before you called, He answered. Before you cried, He comforted. Before you lost your way, He mapped the direction. Before you felt lonely, He surrounded you. And before you worried, He supplied the peace that would carry you through. Nothing surprises God. You might wake up unsure, but God is not unsure about you. You might rise with questions, but He rises with answers. You may step into the day with uncertainties, but He steps into the day already knowing how everything will unfold. He is the God who goes ahead of you, the God who stands in your tomorrow while walking with you today, the God who arranges divine provision in moments where you least expect it. That meeting you're nervous about, He has already entered the room. That burden you're afraid to face, He has already softened its weight. That opportunity you're praying for, He has already placed your name on it. You are not alone when you wake up. You awaken into a day where mercy is renewed, grace is refreshed, and provision is guaranteed. Heaven didn't wait for you to start moving. Heaven started preparing before you opened your eyes. That means nothing in your day begins from a place of lack. Even if you don't see the provision yet, it is there. Even if you don't feel strong yet, the strength is present. Even if your mind feels scattered, the peace is near. God does not operate on your timeline. He operates ahead of it. And because He works ahead of you, you can step into the morning with assurance that everything you need is already in motion. When you rise knowing you are entering the flow of God's preparation. Rise knowing that what is meant for you has already been set aside. Rise knowing that unseen hands have already gone before you, preparing a path filled with moments that carry His fingerprints. This morning is not just another morning, it is a reminder that God provides before your day even begins. God is always working in places you cannot see, arranging things you didn't even know needed arranging. While you're focused on what's right in front of you, He's handling what's happening behind you, around you, and ahead of you. There are conversations taking place about you that you're not aware of, and God is guiding them. There are decisions being made that will affect your future, and He is influencing them. There are closed doors you think are the end, but God is turning them into detours that will lead you to something better. His work behind the scenes is constant, intentional, and precise. You might feel like nothing is moving, but in the invisible realm of God's purpose, everything is moving. Heaven is never still when your destiny is on the line. There are things happening right now that you won't understand until later. You may wonder why certain doors didn't open, why certain people walked away, why certain plans didn't unfold the way you imagined. But in time, you'll find that God wasn't denying you. He was protecting you. He was shielding you from harm, redirecting you from danger, and positioning you for something greater than what you were reaching for. The delay wasn't a punishment, it was a preparation. The closed door wasn't rejection, it was redirection. God's behind the scenes work often feels hidden, silent, and slow, but that's only because you can't see the scale of what He's arranging for your good. Every resource you will need has already been put in motion. Every answer you have prayed for has already been sent, even if it hasn't arrived yet. God is coordinating moments, aligning hearts, shifting circumstances, and orchestrating divine appointments so everything arrives at the perfect time. What seems like coincidence to you is strategy to God. What feels accidental to you is intentional to Him. You will walk into places and not realize that the atmosphere was prepared before you got there. You will meet people and not know that God softened their hearts before you ever exchanged a word. You will overcome challenges and later understand that the strength you found wasn't yours alone. It was strength heaven positioned ahead of the fight. When you look at your life, you may see confusion, but God sees connection. You see individual moments. He sees the full picture. You see struggle. He sees shaping. You see the weight. He sees the timing. This is why you cannot judge God's faithfulness by what you feel. Feelings fluctuate, but His preparation never stops. Even in seasons when you feel forgotten, He is working. Even when you feel overlooked, He is planning. Even when you feel stuck, He is moving things on your behalf. There are blessings with your name on them that are traveling toward you right now. There are breakthroughs being positioned. There are enemies being silenced. There are storms being calmed before they ever reach your path. You may not see any of it yet, but that does not mean it's not happening. God specializes in unseen work. He moves in silence, but the results will speak loudly. And when everything finally comes together, you will recognize that none of it was random. It was all the work of a God who has been preparing your victory long before you even prayed for it. You are never empty when you step into a new day. Even if life tries to convince you otherwise, heaven has already assigned what you need long before your worries began to speak. You might wake up feeling tired, uncertain, or burdened, but that doesn't change what God has placed over your life. Provision is not a reaction from God. It is a plan that has already been written with your name on it. You walk into the morning with favor covering you, strength waiting for you, and resources moving toward you. You may not feel it immediately, but spiritual provision doesn't depend on emotions. It depends on God's promise. Every step you take is supported by divine supply that you didn't earn and cannot lose. There are blessings aligned with your journey today, even if your situation hasn't revealed them yet. Heaven has not left you to fend for yourself. There is favor waiting at the doors you haven't walked through. There is strength waiting for the battles you haven't fought. There is peace waiting for the moments when your heart starts to tremble. Nothing catches God off guard. He prepares what you need before the demand even shows up. That means when trouble appears, help is already on the way. When pressure rises, strength is already assigned. When confusion tries to cloud your mind, clarity is already positioned to break through. You are not entering this day disadvantaged. You are entering it equipped with grace, equipped with purpose, equipped with resilience, equipped with God's presence. Even if you feel like you've been pushed to your limits, God has already extended your capacity. Even if you feel drained, there is strength stored in places you haven't accessed yet. Even if you feel alone, heaven is closer than the breath you breathe. You may not see angels surrounding you, but they are there. You may not feel God's hand covering you, but it is there. You may not sense favor working on your behalf, but it is there. Your life is wrapped in provision that cannot be measured by what you see. Every challenge you face today will meet a strength that God has already assigned. Every burden you carry will meet a grace that lifts it. Every fear that tries to rise will meet a peace that silences it. Nothing in your path is without a divine counterpart. For every need, there is a supply. For every struggle, there is support. For every tear, there is comfort. For every setback, there is a setup woven into the spiritual fabric of your story. You are covered in ways you haven't realized and protected in ways you haven't felt. So when you move through your day, remind yourself that you are not empty-handed. You are not lacking. You are not unprepared. Heaven has invested too much in you to let you walk through this morning uncovered. There is favor wrapped around you like a shield. There is strength growing inside you like a rising tide. There is provision following you like a shadow that never leaves. Everything you need has already been assigned to your name. And nothing in this day can take away what God has prepared for you. Trust was never meant to be complicated, yet life often makes it feel that way. We wake up trying to figure everything out, carrying weights that were never meant for our shoulders. We try to manage outcomes, predict results, and control what is beyond our reach. But the truth is, simple provision is God's responsibility, and trust is yours. You were never created to carry the pressure of providing for every detail of your life. You were created to believe, to lean, to rest in the assurance that the one who formed you already knows what you need. When you try to take God's job, you end up exhausted. When you do your job, trusting Him, you find peace. There's a quiet strength that rises in a person who finally understands that trust is not weakness. Trust is surrender, and surrender is power. Trust says, I don't have to see it to believe it. I don't have to control it to know it's mine. I don't have to understand the path to walk in the promise. When you shift from striving to trusting, you step out of the chaos of your own strength and into the flow of God's provision. You stop wrestling with what you can't fix and start receiving what God has already released. Trust becomes the bridge that carries you from worry to confidence, from fear to faith, from anxiety to assurance. Fear tries to convince you that your future is fragile. Doubt tries to whisper that God is late. Pressure tries to tell you that you must do everything yourself. But trust pushes back. Trust declares that God is still on schedule, even when time feels tight. Trust declares that God is working even when the situation looks still. Trust declares that God is providing even when the evidence hasn't shown up yet. When you trust Him, you step out of the limited capacity of your own understanding and into the limitless territory of His promise. Trust doesn't mean ignoring reality. It means choosing which reality you believe more, the one in front of your eyes or the one God has spoken over you. Trust is the anchor that keeps you steady when life tries to toss you into uncertainty. It tells your heart to rest. Even when your circumstances refuse to settle, it tells your mind to quiet down, even when questions rise like waves. It tells your spirit to stand firm, even when everything around you feels fragile. When you release your worries into God's hands, you make room for His provision to show up. Worry takes space, space meant for blessings, space meant for clarity, space meant for God's guidance. Trust clears that space. It opens your heart. It lifts the burden. It creates room for God to move in ways you couldn't see before. And once you truly trust Him, you stop living like everything depends on your strength and start living like everything depends on His faithfulness. Provision flows where trust lives. Peace grows where trust settles. Strength rises where trust takes root. When you place your confidence in God and not in your own ability to control life, you enter a new level of freedom. You begin to realize that God has never failed you, never abandoned you, never forgotten you, and never stopped providing for you. And because He is the provider, you can stop trying to be one. Your part is to trust. His part is to supply. And He has never, not once, failed to do His part. Faith is more than just a feeling. It is the choice to believe in what you cannot yet see. It is the quiet, steady assurance that God is working behind the scenes even when your circumstances seem to say otherwise. When life throws challenges your way, faith becomes the lens through which you see beyond the obstacles. It does not deny the difficulty, but it declares that God's power is greater than every problem, bigger than every delay, and stronger than every doubt. Faith activates God's provision because it shifts your focus from what you can control to what He has already promised. It is in faith that unseen blessings begin to align, doors that seemed closed swing open, and strength rises in places you never knew it existed. Every time you release fear and doubt, you create space for faith to operate. Fear tries to paralyze you, keeping you small and stuck, whispering that you are alone or that God's timing is late. Doubt challenges God's ability to act, making you question His faithfulness. But faith pushes back against these lies. It is the voice that says, even though I cannot see the solution, I believe there is one. Even though the path seems unclear, I believe God has gone before me. Faith is active. It moves your heart, shapes your thoughts, and aligns your actions with divine promises. It does not wait passively. It engages with hope, confidence, and expectancy. Faith also serves as a shield against the chaos that surrounds you. Life will bring moments that test your resolve, seasons where answers seem delayed, and situations that appear impossible. Without faith, these moments can overwhelm, leaving you anxious and defeated. But faith anchors you. It tells your spirit that the unseen is more real than the visible, that God's plan is in motion even when it has not manifested yet. With faith, storms become temporary, setbacks become setups, struggles become stepping stones. Faith transforms waiting from a place of frustration into a space of preparation, teaching you patience while God arranges your breakthrough. Declaring faith is also a powerful act. Speaking out what you believe aligns your heart with God's promises. Words of faith release His power into your circumstances. When you say, "I trust you, Lord, I believe you are my provider," you are not just making a statement, you are sending a declaration into the spiritual realm that activates provision, favor, and opportunity. Faith turns invisible promises into visible reality. It bridges the gap between what is now and what God has promised. It gives your spirit permission to rise above limitations and your heart permission to hope beyond the visible. Faith requires courage. It demands that you step forward when logic says stay, act when fear says pause, and trust when doubt says question. But every step of faith invites God's power into your life. It aligns your journey with His plan. It allows provision to reach you in ways you could not have orchestrated yourself. And the more you exercise faith, the more you discover that God's timing, wisdom, and resources are always sufficient, perfectly aligned, and abundantly more than you ever imagined. Faith is the key that unlocks the flow of God's provision, turning your prayers into answered blessings and your trust into tangible miracles. You were never meant to walk through life alone. Every step you take, every challenge you face, every joy and every struggle, God is already there, moving ahead, preparing the way, and guiding your path. Even when it feels like you are carrying the weight by yourself, you are never truly alone. There is a divine presence walking before you, making crooked paths straight, opening doors that no one else can open, and closing doors that are not meant for you. You may not see it, you may not feel it, but your journey is being orchestrated by a hand far greater than your own. This truth is not just comforting, it is transformative. It changes the way you live, how you respond to difficulties, and the confidence with which you face each day. When life throws obstacles in your way, it can feel isolating. You may question why doors close, why opportunities seem delayed, or why circumstances appear unfair. But the God who walks ahead of you sees the full picture. He knows what is coming, what you need, and what you are capable of handling. While you may be struggling to understand today, He is already arranging solutions for tomorrow. Every trial is met with preparation, every uncertainty with a plan, and every doubt with reassurance. You are never walking blind. There is always guidance, even if it is invisible to the human eye. You are not alone in the moments of fear or confusion either. There are unseen forces working on your behalf. There are angels assigned to protect and guide you. There are doors being opened, connections being made, and opportunities being aligned while you are still figuring out your next move. Your struggles are not ignored. Your prayers are not unheard. God has already positioned what you need in advance, and He is constantly steering your life toward it. Even when others abandon you or circumstances seem against you, His presence never leaves. You have divine accompaniment, strength, and support available at every turn. Walking with this understanding changes your mindset and your steps. You stop relying solely on your own strength and start relying on the one who goes before you. You gain confidence knowing that your path is not random, that setbacks are not permanent, and that your journey is not without divine oversight. You begin to seize obstacles as temporary and surmountable because the one who leads you is greater than every obstacle. When fear rises, courage takes its place. When doubt whispers, faith speaks louder. When the world seems chaotic, there is still order in your path because God's hand is guiding every detail. Being aware that you are never alone allows you to move boldly. You can take steps that once felt risky, speak words that once felt intimidating, and pursue dreams that once seemed unreachable. The guidance of God before you makes your journey strategic, purposeful, and filled with favor. Each step becomes a partnership with divine wisdom and strength, ensuring that you are not navigating life by chance, but by design. When you embrace this truth, you realize that no matter what the day brings, no matter the challenges you face, you are never walking alone. There is a divine hand leading, protecting, and providing for you every step of the way. You may not always feel ready, qualified, or capable, but that has never stopped God from providing for His children. Life often tries to convince you that you are not enough, that you lack the experience, the skills, the resources, or the wisdom to handle what lies ahead. But God does not operate on human standards. He provides based on His promise, His timing, and His understanding of your potential, not on your perception of yourself. Even when you feel inadequate, He equips you. Even when you feel unprepared, He positions you. Even when you doubt your own strength, He fills in the gaps with His power. Your feelings do not determine your provision. His faithfulness does. There are moments in life when fear tries to whisper, "You are not capable. You are not ready. You are not enough." These lies are designed to make you shrink, hesitate, or walk away from the destiny that God has already set before you. But God's provision is not dependent on your perfection. It is dependent on His promise. He specializes in taking ordinary people and doing extraordinary things through them. He specializes in taking weakness and turning it into strength, taking insufficiency and turning it into abundance, and taking uncertainty and turning it into clarity. You don't have to have all the answers or all the skills. You only have to trust the one who already has everything arranged on your behalf. Your feelings of inadequacy are often the very moments when God's power can shine the brightest. When you think you are too small, His provision is enough. When you think you are too inexperienced, His wisdom steps in. When you feel like you are lacking, His resources flow freely to cover every need. God does not ask you to be ready in your own strength. He asks you to be willing to step forward in faith. The moment you choose to trust Him despite your feelings, You unlock doors that human understanding cannot open. You activate opportunities that your preparation alone could never reach. You allow His presence to lead and His provision to flow into your life. Even the giants you see in your path are not too big for the God who goes before you. You may feel unworthy or incapable, but God does not measure your worth by your ability to see a way. He measures it by His promise to sustain, guide, and provide. You might lack confidence, but His confidence fills the void. You might lack clarity, but His direction illuminates the path. You might lack resources, but His provision always exceeds what you need. No matter how unqualified you feel, God's faithfulness is greater than your fear. This understanding frees you from the burden of perfection. You no longer have to wait until you feel ready or know enough to pursue your purpose. You step forward knowing that God's provision is sufficient, that His timing is perfect, and that His power will make up for what you lack. The limitations you see in yourself are never limitations to Him. His provision is not determined by your ability, it is determined by His promise. And because He is faithful to provide, you can move boldly, serve confidently, and embrace your destiny fully, knowing that what you lack, He has already supplied. Speaking your faith is not merely a ritual, it is a declaration that aligns your heart with the promises of God and activates His power in your life. When you speak out what you believe, you are not just expressing hope, you are releasing divine authority into your circumstances. Words have weight, and spoken faith sets into motion spiritual forces that can shift situations, open doors, and bring clarity where confusion once reigned. Every time you declare God's goodness, His provision, and His faithfulness, you are participating in the work He has already begun. Speaking faith is a partnership with heaven, a way of saying, I trust your plan, I trust your timing, and I believe in your provision. There is power in verbal affirmation because it strengthens your spirit. Internal belief is important, but speaking aloud what you believe solidifies it in your heart and mind. It reminds you that you are not relying on your own strength, but on the one who goes before you. Every declaration is a spiritual marker, a statement that declares your confidence in God's plan. When you speak faith, you are refusing to let fear, doubt, or negativity dictate the outcome of your day. You are choosing to stand on truth. Even when circumstances appear uncertain, speaking faith turns invisible hope into visible expectation, transforming your mindset and preparing you to recognize the blessings that are already on their way. Faith spoken aloud also influences the atmosphere around you. When you verbalize trust in God, you create a spiritual environment that invites His presence and guidance. The words you speak can calm anxiety, redirect attention from fear, and focus energy on divine solutions rather than human limitations. Your declarations serve as a reminder to yourself and others that God's provision is active, His timing is perfect, and His wisdom is sufficient. Even in situations that seem impossible, spoken faith shifts the spiritual momentum and positions you to experience breakthrough. It communicates to heaven that you are ready to receive and to walk in alignment with His plan. Furthermore, speaking faith strengthens your resolve. Life often presents moments where discouragement, delay, or opposition could make you question God's promises. But when you speak faith, you reinforce your belief in what God has already said. Words give structure to hope, transform uncertainty into assurance, and replace hesitation with confidence. Each time you affirm, I trust you, Lord, I believe you are my provider, you are not simply reciting a statement, you are reaffirming a reality that heaven has already established. Spoken faith becomes a spiritual anchor that steadies you, guides you, and reminds you of God's continual presence and provision. Finally, speaking faith invites divine action into your life. It positions you to receive what has already been prepared, activates opportunities that may otherwise go unnoticed, and opens doors that human effort alone cannot unlock. Your words are a bridge between the promise of God and the manifestation of that promise in your life. By declaring your trust and belief, you are stepping out of passivity and into active participation in God's plan. Speaking faith is not just an expression, it is a declaration of authority, a call to receive, and a demonstration of confidence in the God who provides, protects, and leads every step of your way. God's provision is complete and abundant, and it is not limited by your imagination, your circumstances, or the resources you can see. Too often, we allow our human perspective to dictate our expectations, thinking that what we can see is all that exists. But God's provision is limitless. He does not give sparingly. He does not provide partially. He provides fully, abundantly, and according to his perfect wisdom. Every need, every challenge, and every opportunity in your life has already been accounted for. Even before you ask, he has prepared a supply that exceeds what you could ever calculate or plan for yourself. Abundance in God's provision is not measured by what others have or by worldly standards. It is measured by his ability to meet your unique needs at the perfect time. It is not about how much you see in your bank account, how many opportunities are in front of you, or how favorable your circumstances appear. God's abundance operates on a spiritual level that transcends human limitations. It is the peace that calms your anxious heart, the strength that rises when you feel weak, the clarity that illuminates confusion, and the favor that positions you where you need to be. His provision is holistic, touching every area of your life, emotional, spiritual, physical, and relational, ensuring that nothing is left lacking. When you trust in God's abundant provision, you are no longer limited by scarcity thinking. Scarcity tells you to hoard, to worry, to doubt, and to operate out of fear. Abundance, on the other hand, encourages faith, generosity, and expectation. God's supply is always sufficient, and it is always more than enough to cover the need at hand. You do not have to scramble, struggle, or manipulate situations to make things work. You can step forward with confidence, knowing that every challenge you face has already been met by God's provision, and every opportunity you are meant to encounter has already been prepared for you. The abundance of God's provision also reminds you of his faithfulness. He does not give partially because he cannot fail. He does not withhold because he is unaware of your needs. He provides completely because he is perfect in his timing, infinite in his wisdom, and limitless in his resources. There is nothing too great for him to provide, and nothing too small for him to notice. Your life, your purpose, and your destiny are all covered by provision that is more than adequate, more than sufficient, and more than you could ever imagine when you live in awareness of God's full provision. You walk with confidence and freedom. You are no longer burdened by worry, fear, or doubt because you understand that what you need has already been supplied. You can focus on the work, the steps, and the relationships that matter, knowing that provision is not your responsibility, it is God's. Abundance is not something to chase, it is something to receive, something to walk in, and something to recognize. God has promised to supply all your needs according to his riches and faithfulness. His provision is complete, it is abundant, and it is unshakable. You can trust that everything you require has already been prepared, and nothing will fall short of what he has destined for you. Stepping into your day with confidence is a powerful choice, and it begins with the awareness that God has already made a way for you. Too often, people approach life cautiously, weighed down by fear, doubt, or uncertainty. They worry about obstacles, question their abilities, and hesitate to move forward because the path seems unclear. But when you know that God has gone ahead of you, that he has already arranged the circumstances, aligned the opportunities, and prepared the people who will come into your life, you can move boldly. Confidence is not about knowing every detail of what lies ahead. It is about trusting that the one who holds the future is guiding every step you take. It is a decision to walk in assurance even when the world around you seems unpredictable. Confidence in God's preparation transforms the way you respond to challenges. When difficulties arise, you no longer react with fear or panic. Instead, you remember that nothing in your path is a surprise to him. Every obstacle, every delay, and every setback has already been accounted for. What may look like a roadblock to the human eye is actually a part of the divine process. Confidence allows you to navigate life with clarity and strength because you are not relying solely on your own understanding. You are anchored in the certainty that God's plan is already in motion and his provision is already on the way. This shifts your perspective from worry to expectation, from hesitation to action, and from doubt to faith. Walking with confidence also changes how others respond to you. People are drawn to those who move with certainty and purpose. When you step into a situation with the calm assurance that God has prepared the way, your presence carries influence and authority. Doors that might have seemed closed begin to open. Opportunities that were hidden become visible. Favor follows those who move with faith and confidence because their steps are aligned with divine timing. By trusting that God has already gone before you, you invite his guidance into every interaction, every decision, and every challenge you face. Confidence also brings freedom. It frees you from the burden of trying to control every outcome, from the pressure of making everything perfect, and from the fear of failure. When you understand that God's hand is already at work in your life, you can release the need to micromanage, the anxiety of uncertainty, and the weight of doubt. You can focus on doing your part, showing up, moving forward, and acting with integrity. while leaving the results in God's hands. This freedom allows you to walk boldly, speak clearly, and pursue your purpose without hesitation. Finally, stepping into the day with confidence encourages perseverance. Life will challenge you, but when you know God has prepared the way, setbacks become temporary, obstacles become lessons, and delays become opportunities for growth. Confidence rooted in God's preparation ensures that you remain steadfast, resilient, and unwavering. It gives you the courage to continue moving forward, knowing that no matter what comes, God has already made a way. You can face each day with assurance, expectation, and peace, because the one who provides, protects, and guides has already gone ahead to secure your victory